What's going on, baseball fans? How are we doing? So the Chicago Cubs recently came out and suggested that it looks like they're going to be sellers by the deadline this year. So MLB.com came up with some trades for the Chicago Cubs. Let's go talk about it. Okay, so here we go. Who says no? 6 Cubs trade ideas. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at each trade and I'm going to plug them in to the trade simulator on baseballtradevalues.com. If you're not familiar with Baseball Trade Values, phenomenal website. The algorithms that they use are very accurate. Their simulator has gotten a 96.5 acceptance rate based off of real life trades. So Baseball Trade Values, they use the algorithms very similar to what Major League Baseball teams use today. So it's not going to be perfect every single time, but I mean, more often than not, 96.5%. I mean, that's pretty good if you ask me. If you get that on a test, you're pretty happy with yourself. So let's go take a look at the first trade. So we have Javier Baez going to the Oakland Athletics, and in return, the Cubs will be getting Logan Davidson, their number 5 prospect, and right-hander Jeff Criswell, their number 8 prospect. So let's go take a look at this trade. So as you can see here, Javier Baez has a value of 9.4, while the combination of Criswell and Davidson comes out to 5.20. So it's not a bad trade by any means. It's pretty close. I would imagine the Cubs, in this situation, I would think that they're going to want at least one more prospect out of this, or they're going to want a stronger prospect. So if we go take a look at the Oakland A's top prospects, maybe you could bump up a Logan Davidson to possibly a Dalton Jeffries, or maybe you can bump up a Criswell to either a Bryant or a Poison, or maybe you can add someone else in the 10 to 20 range. I don't think this trade is really too far off. I think this is pretty realistic. The A's really could use a bump when it comes to offensive production at the shortstop position. Elvis Andrus has really just not been getting it done all that much this year. So we'll have to wait and see if maybe we could see something like this. I don't know if Javier Baez really fits too much into what the Oakland A's like to do. They like their guys to get on base, but Javier Baez would be bringing a lot of power to the Oakland A's if that were to happen. If we take a look at the numbers this year, not a great average and not a great on base, but the slugging percentage is very good in the 21 home runs, a lot of RBIs. So maybe he could fit into what the Oakland A's like to do. I don't think this is a bad trade by any means. I think it's pretty close. I think so far we're off to a pretty decent start here. So next up, we have the Giants getting Craig Kimbrell and the Cubs getting left-hander Kyle Harrison, the number 8 prospect, right-hander Kervin Castro, the number 25 prospect, and outfielder Jalen Davis, the number 26 prospect. So right off the bat, this trade is very far off. This is not a good trade at all. Craig Kimbrell, you're probably thinking, wow, he only has a 0 value. So I would argue I would probably bump that up personally to somewhere from like a 3 to a 5. That's just my personal opinion, but I understand why it is a 0. So Craig Kimbrell, while he is having a very good year this year, if we take a look at the numbers, 0.57 ERA over the 33 games, 20 saves, 54 strikeouts over the 31 2/3 innings. Craig Kimbrell has really been getting it done this year, easily an all-star this year, no question about that. But the problem with Kimbrell, he really struggled in 2019 with the Cubs, struggled a little bit to start off 2020, really kind of found his form going down the stretch in 2020, and then he's obviously found his form this year as well. So Kimbrell, the problem is he's owed a lot of money for next year. He does have that team option, which I'm sure a team would be interested in exercising. But it's a lot of money for a reliever at the end of the day. Sure, it's a lockdown, it's a lockdown closer in a Craig Kimbrell. However, with relievers, I feel like more often than not, you can find relievers out there that can cost a lot less. Now, I'm not saying they could perform at the same level of a Kimbrell, but I think you can find a lot of relievers out there for not even close to what you're paying him, and they can get, pretty similar success. Either way, I digress. Kimbrell, I do think he should have a bit of a value here, a little higher than a 0. That's just my personal opinion, but I definitely still think this trade is very far off. If we go take a look at the San Francisco Giants, the top prospects here, let's go take a look at Kyle Harrison. Kyle Harrison, he has been very good. He got drafted in the 3rd round last year. He was a bit of a steal last year in the draft. He ranked a lot higher than where he got picked. But overall, this guy has very good tools. 55 fastball, 55 slider, decent changeup to go along with it. And he's only 19 years old. He's already putting up really good numbers at single A, 3.66 ERA over the 11 games, a ton of strikeouts, 76 Ks over about 47 innings. So Kyle Harrison, there's a reason he has a big value, 14.8. This is a left-hander, could be a left-hander that can go into the rotation in the future. He's looking very good so far. Now, I think if you take Kyle Harrison out of this, I definitely think you're pretty close. Maybe they could add, some kind of a lower prospect here. Maybe someone, maybe like a Sean Hagel, something like that. Maybe even someone like a Gregory Santos, or maybe like a Nick Swiney instead. So actually, if I were to plug that in, let me take out Harrison here, and I will plug in someone else. Let's go to like a Swiney. So as of right now, as you can see, again, I think Kimbrell, I would say personally, I think he's going to be, maybe like a 3 to a 5 value. That's just my personal opinion. But if let's say I plugged in someone like a Swiney instead, where are you at, Swiney? Here we go. It's like a 1.9. So maybe if they take a different left-hander, I think this scenario, you're going to be a lot closer. There's no way the Giants are going to be giving up, Kyle Harrison, 19-year-old left-hander with a big future ahead of him. So I don't see that happening, but I could definitely see something like this happening instead. Next up, we have Kris Bryant going to the Mets, and in return, the Cubs get third base prospect Mark Vientos, the number 8 prospect, Alex Ramirez, outfielder, the number 9 prospect, and Junior Santos, the number 11 prospect. So I definitely think this is possible because, hey, the Mets and the Cubs, there were talks for a while there going back to the offseason where, hey, the Mets were very interested in Kris Bryant. So if we go take a look at this trade, this one's not very far off either. Kris Bryant, as of right now, a 15.1 value, and these 3 guys combined to add they add up towards a 17 value. So this actually, I'll be honest, spoiler alert, I think this is probably the most realistic trade out of all of these that I'm going to be going over. I think this is very realistic. If we go take a look at the Mets' top prospects, I've actually done I did a video talking about maybe the Mets trading for their showing interest in a Josh Donaldson and a Kris Bryant. And I actually did a very similar trade to this. I had Bryant go to the Mets for Ramirez, Vientos, and some cash. So it looks like Bryant's value has gone down a little bit since then. He has not been swinging as good lately, but I came up with a similar trade just like this. I definitely think it's possible. It seems, not too far out of the question. It's a lot of prospects for the Mets to be giving up, so I wonder if they're going to really want to part with a lot of these prospects. They're trying to bring more prospects in. We have the draft coming up, so maybe they feel like, hey, we can replenish in this year's draft. But again, a Mark Vientos, I think, could be really solid. We had Ramirez going in there as well. Ramirez, as of right now, he is the number 9 prospect, so you have the 8 and the 9. And then we had Junior Santos, which would be a decent right-hander to add to your system as well. If we take a look at his numbers, a big fastball, decent slider, decent changeup, not much control, but he's a hard-throwing guy. Maybe the Cubs feel like they would, like to work with in the future. I definitely think this is something that maybe we could see something like this. So again, out of all of the trades that I'm going to be going over, I do feel like this one personally is the most realistic, but let's go take a look at the other trades as well. Here's a fun one. The Yankees get involved here. The Yankees get first baseman Anthony Rizzo and left-hander Andrew Chafin. The Cubs in return would get Luke Voit and shortstop prospect Oswald Peraza, the number 4 prospect. I'm going to tell you right now, the values aren't too far off, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this trade. I'm not a big fan of this trade for the Yankees, actually. I think the Yankees are not getting a good return here. I do love Anthony Rizzo, but he's going to be a free agent soon. Chafin is a decent guy to add for the bullpen, but you're giving up a shortstop prospect where I know, sure, you have Gleyber Torres, but this is a premium position here. A shortstop prospect, Oswald Peraza. If we actually go take a look at him real quick, this is a guy to really keep an eye on for the future. If we take a look at him, there's a lot of things to like about him. He's a great hit tool. The power still could come along, but hey, he's only, 21 years old. That could definitely increase. He's fast. He's good in the field. He has a good arm. Take a look at how he's doing so far. He's having a very decent year at Double-A right now. He's hitting .292, got 8 home runs, 27 RBIs, 366 on base. So Oswald Peraza is doing well at the moment. I don't like this trade for the Yankees very much. I think Oswald Peraza, I think you can include him if the Yankees were to deal him away, I think you could maybe get someone a little more under control, or a bit under more contract control. Anthony Rizzo is going to be a free agent. Andrew Chafin, he's going to be a free agent eventually, and he's an older reliever. He's having a good year, and I love the hair and the mustache with an Andrew Chafin, but I just don't like this trade. And what I find crazy about this, Mark Feinstein, what are you talking about, sir? Who says no? The Cubs? The Cubs would say no to this trade? Are you kidding me? You work for MLB.com, sir, and you're telling me that the Cubs would say no to this? Are you kidding me? You're getting a shortstop of the future? You're getting a Luke Voit, where if I were to go look up some Luke Voit numbers real quick, I mean, Luke Voit, he has had his health problems, but the year that he had last year, 22 home runs, hit .277. I mean, the guy was having a very good year last year. Sure, he's had his injuries, but this is a guy that's not a free agent until 2025. Again, sure, I understand the injury concerns, but you're telling me that the Cubs would say no to a guy that's under control until 2025 and a possible really good shortstop of the future that could be your shortstop for years to come, where and Rizzo and Chafin are going to be free agents soon. I mean, come on, Mark Feinstein. I mean, come on. No, the Yankees would say no to this trade. There's no way. I mean, there's no way the Yankees would give up this much for a rental of Anthony Rizzo and a reliever. That's out of the question. There's no way. I don't like this trade at all. Mark Feinstein, I don't know what you were talking about, sir. The Yankees would definitely not do this trade. The Cubs would take this trade in a heartbeat. But do I think this is going to happen? No. Do I like the trade? I like it for the Cubs. If the Cubs could do this, phenomenal haul. But for the Yankees, there's no way they do this. Next up, we have the Brewers getting Chris Bryant and the Cubs getting left-hander Aaron Ashby and catcher Jefferson Cuero, number 7 prospect and number 9 prospect. So while the values are really not that far off, it's actually pretty close in terms of value. I just don't see this happening. I don't see the Brewers wanting to give up a left-handed pitching prospect and an Aaron Ashby. When you have a pitching prospect that is a lefty, those are pretty valuable. I mean, you want to keep your lefties. That's just my personal opinion. I like having some lefties in my rotation. I feel like those are a lot harder to come by than a right-hander. But if you take a look, Aaron Ashby, I mean, sure, he came up this year. He struggled a little bit, but this is a guy that I think he has a pretty decent future ahead of him. So Aaron Ashby, and then the Brewers, they're trying to replenish this farm system more. They need to start adding some guys. So I don't like this trade. I think with the Brewers, I mean, sure, would you like a Chris Bryant? Yeah, I think you would. But I don't think the Cubs really care about helping out a Bryant. I think the Brewers would care more about giving future assets to the Cubs and a catching prospect as well in Cuero. I don't like this trade I actually don't like this trade for the Brewers, and they're not going to re-sign Bryant long term. And yeah, they're not going to want to give future assets to the Cubs for a half a season of Chris Bryant. I find this trade completely unrealistic. Sure, the values are pretty close, but it's just not a good trade. And last but not least, we have the Blue Jays getting Craig Kimbrell and the Cubs in return getting Miguel Geraldo, the number 8 prospect, and right-hander CJ Van Eyck, their number 10 prospect. So if we take a look at the values, I talked before about Kimbrell where he's got a 0 value. I think personally that's a little higher. But again, he does have the contract, getting a lot of money, and hey, while he's having a good year, he has had struggles in recent years, so something to pay attention to with the Kimbrell. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of money for a reliever. So, but he really could help out the Blue Jays. I think if maybe the Cubs paid some of this contract, so let's actually send over some money with Kimbrell to the Blue Jays. I don't know. Let's just say $5 million. And let's take a look at that now. Oh, wait, whoops, did not hit add cash. So if we take a look at that now, I think you're closer. It's definitely something to where I think you can maybe work this out. Maybe instead of a Geraldo, maybe you can replace him with someone else. So if we take a look, so Geraldo right now, maybe instead of him, maybe you could do someone like a Leo Jimenez. So actually, let me plug this in really quick. So Geraldo, let's take him off. And let's put in, so Geraldo, where are you? Let's take you out there. And then who was the one that I said? A Leo Jimenez. So let's put in a Jimenez instead. So let's go maybe him. And so I think here, I think maybe you're a little closer in this situation. I think a Geraldo is probably going to be a little too much than what the Blue Jays would like to give up. Again, you're getting a reliever, and sure, you're going to have him for next year, but I mean, you are going, in this case, the Blue Jays would be getting, you know, Craig Kimbrell, who's in the National League, coming over to the American League. So there's a lot of good designated hitters over the American League. So I don't know if the Blue Jays would be a little about that. But this is kind of something I think is a little more realistic. I don't think the Blue Jays would want to give up a Geraldo in this situation. I could definitely see someone, maybe even like an Otto Lopez. Let me actually put Lopez in there instead. Let's take out Jimenez. Let's put in Lopez. So I could maybe see like a Lopez instead. I could see something like this happening. Craig Kimbrell, I think, would be a great fit on the Toronto Blue Jays. They could, I think, use one more arm for that bullpen. I think they could use another starter too. That's just my opinion. But that is what I'm thinking here with these trades. Again, going over it real quick. Overall, I think some of these are okay. I think the Javier Baez one is decent. I could see him being a decent fit over in Oakland. I think you would just kind of have to rework the prospects a little bit. This trade, I don't like this trade at all. I think that's a terrible trade. The Giants are giving up way too much in that situation. This, for the Chris Bryant and the Mets trade, I like the trade. I don't know if the Mets would want to give up that many prospects, especially if Chris Bryant is going to be becoming a free agent soon. The Mets need to be kind of hanging on to some prospects at the moment. They need to start adding some prospects into that farm system. So maybe if they can, you know, maybe take 2 of these prospects, I think that would be good. Moving on to this one. This would be a great trade for the Cubs if this were to ever happen. This is not going to happen, but if the Cubs were to get this, my personal opinion, yeah, I'm going to be taking Luke Voit, who's not a free agent until 2025, and Oswald Peraza, your number 4 prospect in the Yankee system, a possible future shortstop. Absolutely, if I'm the Cubs, I do this. Yankees, there's no way the Yankees would offer this. So Mark Feinstein, stop it. Who says no? The Cubs? Are you kidding me, Mark? Come on, Mark. Are you kidding? The Cubs and the Brewers trade, no, I don't see this happening. The Brewers are not going to want to send prospects to the Cubs for half a season of Chris Bryant. That's not going to happen. Sure, the values are kind of close, but the Brewers realistically are not going to do that. And I mean, I think people don't need to be looking at it as the Cubs helping the Brewers out. I think the Brewers, you don't want to be sending prospects back to the Cubs. I mean, that's just, what if Aaron Ashby ends up becoming a stud down the road, and then you have to face him so many times, you know, in all these divisional games that you have with each other? There's no way the Brewers should do that, I think. And then the last trade, I do like the fit of Craig Kimbrell and the Blue Jays. I think that would be great. I definitely think Miguel Geraldo is probably going to be a little bit too much. Maybe take him out, put in another prospect. I think you can maybe see something like this happening. So out of these, I like a couple, but tell me what you think down below in the comments. What are some trades that you think the Cubs should do? What do you think of these trades that we just went over? Let me know down below in the comments, but that's all I have for right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.